Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is concept of economic value. Actually, we do two types of financial evaluations and economic evaluation. These are the two types of evaluation to assess the financial performance or economic performance of a project. And basically, financial analysis is done to assess the cost of benefit or the financial performance of a firm or an individual project, in which we use the market prices. But this individual project or individual firm, they use the country's the scarce resources, and therefore they have the impact on the society as a nation. They have impact on in the overall ecosystem of the country. So therefore, we need to have the economic evaluation, and basically economic evaluation or economic assessment is done based on the prices which are prevail in the perfect market. So actually prices in the perfect market represent the marginal value product of the item, of the commodity, or basically that is basically opportunity cost of that goods and services which we are using in the production process, or which the items being used by a consumer. So but in actual, we do not have the perfect market. We do not have the prices in the market which reflect the true the marginal value product or the opportunity cost. And in that case, in the economic analysis, we need to have the shadow prices. So actually, we estimate the shadow prices using the market prices, and by adjusting the market prices, in which we calculate the opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is basically the cost which we foregone in the next best alternative, the benefit we foregone in the next best alternative. So that is basically the opportunity cost, and actually the shadow prices is basically a opportunity cost. So for economic analysis, basically we have to calculate the shadow prices using the concept of the opportunity cost. So in this session, we are going to discuss about the meaning or the concept of economic valuation, or the concept of the price and the value, the difference between the price and value. And also we will discuss the need of the the economic analysis, and what are the different way to calculate, to estimate the shadow prices and for the economic valuation. So let us start with the meaning of the economic analysis. And actually, we need to have the economic evaluation in the project analysis to carry out their social cost benefit analysis. So actually, we need to have the assess the effect of the project on the the society, in the economy as a whole. So basically, this economic analysis, it enables us to determine likely contribution of a project to the development of the economy as a whole. And this economic analysis also justify the use of needed scarce resources in the projects. So based on the the benefit, we can see that it is justified that we can use this the scarce resources, water or land or human labor or natural resources. And this economic analysis also help us in the selecting the project consistent with the objective of the national planning or national policy. For example, if the policy is to have the employment in this country, so we can identify the project best which provide the employment. So in similar way, so we can select the project according to national planning. The sometimes objective is to promote the consumption, to increase the output, or to increase the saving, to increase the the foreign exchange earning, to have the equitable income distribution. These are the different objectives of the national planning, and based on the economic evaluation, we can identify, we can select the project for this objective. So economic analysis basically allows for remuneration to labor and other inputs, that is basically the factor of production, at the market price or at shadow prices, whichever approximate two opportunity cost. So actually, this economic analysis allow us to have the economic analysis which allows to have the to provide the remuneration to the labor or other factor of production, at the opportunity cost. So basically, when in the we use the prices, which is basically a true opportunity cost. So economic values are based on the economic prices and which are associated with the value of the foregone opportunities, that is basically opportunity cost, and it is required for allocation of the resources to maximize their productivity. So actually, if you want to maximize the productivity of the resources, we have to allocate the resources keeping in mind the marginal value product or the opportunity cost. So theory of valuation basically make the distinction between the values and prices. And then according to this economic principle or economic theories, there's a difference between the values and the prices. And value of the commodity is based on the theory of utility. Actually, how much utility a person is getting by consuming a good or a services. So actually, so the quantity of commodity utilization is decided based on the marginal utility he get for the consumption or she get from that consumption. And basically, it's a demand of that product is also based on its utility value, how much satisfaction a commodity is providing to a persons. That's decide the utility of that, the commodity, and then decide the price of that commodity. So, and on the other hand, the price for commodity or service emerge with the interplay of the demand and supply factor in the market. And this, the prices can be determined if there is a market. If there is no market, we cannot decide the prices. In case of the like water, if there is no water, we cannot fix the price of the water. So it reflects basically a balance between the what a consumer willing to pay and what a producer is willing to accept. So the prices is basically on the factor of demand and supply, and the based on the demand, and the consumer is ready to pay something, and the supplier is ready to accept something for the exchange of the commodities or services, and they decide the price of the commodity. But this the equilibrium between the demand and supply may not be exist, or the equilibrium between the willingness to pay and willingness to accept the money may not be exist. There are certain reasons behind that. Like in the first reason, sometimes there is a non-existence of the market, like the water in the rural settings. There is abundant quantity of water is available in the rural area, and the people in the rural area, they don't need to pay anything for the water. So there is no market available in the rural area. So actually, but the people know the value of the water, but they don't know the price because it is available. There is no market. The second case for non-availability of the market is even the market exists, or the community may have been under administrative price system, like in the urban water supply in the urban area or in the city area. The drinking water is supplied by the corporation, but the price is very less, not as per the market forces, but it basically it is the administrative prices. So the price in the urban water supply may not reflect the true value of the water. Based on the utility of water, price is not decided because it is a administrative price system. Then third case is the this equilibrium between the demand or supply, or the willingness to pay, willingness to acceptance is not available under the perfect market condition. The consumers WT, willingness to pay, and the price determined the market condition may differ. Sometimes there is a abundant supply, or there is a sometimes so price is fall, but the consumer is ready to pay much more. So there is no proper interplay of these forces. So, and we can see this effect in practice many times. And sometimes the value and price of commodity may be the same, or sometimes they may be the differ. They both may not be the same. And as per the economic theory, they said that every economic commodity will be priced at its marginal value product in a perfect market. So this is the basically principle that the price of the commodity is decided based on the marginal value product in a perfect market. So a perfect market is basically the highly competitive market with many buyers and sellers. Many buyers and sellers means not a single buyer or not a single sellers, they can affect the market prices or the transaction in the market. And the price of the every good and services which exactly reflect the value of contribution to production from last unit of the utilized. So actually the price is basically decided on the marginal value of the product, from the last unit consumed or last unit consumed in the production last. So how much value is being generated from the last unit consumed, that decide the market, the prices in the perfect market. But when a unit of the goods and services have alternative usage, if and in that condition, if a unit is contribute more in other activity, its prices will definitely will rise. It will be attracted to that alternate activity. If we have one unit of goods, if we have one unit of fertilizer and we have two crops like wheat and mustard, and presently we are using that fertilizer unit wheat, but when this fertilizer unit is contribute more in the mustard, it will go to the mustard crop. So it will be attracted to the mustard crop. So when the economy is in equilibrium condition, the opportunity cost, the marginal value product, and the price will all be equal. So in the perfect market, in the equilibrium condition, the opportunity cost, the marginal value product, and the price will be the same. Here we can define the opportunity cost is basically as a value of the next best alternative in that production for corn. So in the basically economic analysis, resources are allocated through the price mechanism, and it will be utilized in to that use in the economy where it has the maximum contributions, and no transfer of the resources could result in greater output. So resources are allocated in such a way into different usage that the transfer of that last unit of that resources could not result the greater output. However, such ideal conditions do not exist, and market prices do not always reflect the value of the contribution or the value of the utility of that resource. So the market prices sometimes do not reflect the economic values, and there are various situations, and there are some aspects in the economic evaluation which reflect that the market price necessarily do not reflect the economic or social value of the goods and services, and there are different situations which we can understand under which the market prices do not reflect the economic values. And the first condition here is that income distribution. The money a consumer offer depend on his or her income level. A rich person may offer a good deal of money for a trivia, the commodity or service which do not have a much value, but a rich person can provide good amount of money for purchasing that goods and services. But a poor person might find difficult to spend even very small amount of money on the essential. So actually, the willingness to pay in the market is not a guide to social value. Basically, the based on the income availability with the person, he can decide the offering of the money for purchasing that. So basically, so it includes the WTP. It includes the influence of income distribution on the prices offered, based on the income. So we need to consider this distributional question in income valuation. Sometimes so the person which are having the good income, they can offer more for the same quantity, and the person which are having less income with him, he will offer less. So sometimes we cannot say that WTA a good aspect, a good measure to assess the correct market price. The second aspect where we can say the market prices do not reflect the economic value is the externality. There are influence and that work outside the market rather through it. There are some influence from the project which are outside the project area or outside the project market. And these are relevant for economic valuation exercise, and externalities are often quite pervasive and can arise in the process of the production, like the air or water pollution can arise in the process of consumption, like additional private vehicle crowding the roads, and sometimes they can also emerge in the process of sales and distributions, like garbage shop display affecting the tranquility of the community. So these are the different the externalities are there, and the market prices basically they do not consider about these externalities. So that's why the market prices do not reflect their correct economic value. And the third aspect is the consumer surplus. Basically, the sometimes market mislead even in the absence of externalities or consideration of income distribution. If you look at the market of a good and services, we get a measure of level of expected satisfaction. But in fact, the consumer may expect much more and get more. If we purchase some quantity and we offer some, there's some value or some money to that to purchase of that quantity, and it's also there is a perception about how much satisfaction we will get or utility we will get from that purchase. But in actual or sometimes we get much more than what we are expecting. So that is the concept of basically economic surplus. And here it is very important to examine the excess of what consumers are willing to pay for the goods and services and what they actually pay. So consumers are willing to pay much more, but what actually they are paying. So that difference is basically called a consumer surplus. So here we can understand with this graph that the concept of consumer surplus and why it is important. So in this graph, basically the line AB represent a maximum a consumer is ready to pay for each goods, each unit of a good or service. So actually, and if the market price is BC, C or he will buy a OC quantity of that goods, and the total expenditure he or she will make on it is the area under ODBC, and that represent the earning of the producer from the consumer. And but the value of the satisfaction that he or she anticipates from the market from that good is much more, namely the area under the OABC. So the difference between the area under ADB is the consumer surplus, and that consumer enjoy extra benefit, extra utility from purchasing the goods at the price BC. So here consumer surplus, that is the area under ADB, is clearly a relevant consideration for economic valuation in the project analysis, because the utility is getting much more what he is expected to do more. So income distribution, the externalities and consumer surplus are among the factors that distort the market prices, and the economic value of any commodity or resource reflect their opportunity cost. So we use basically the shadow prices for estimation in comparison to the market prices which are used in the financial evaluation. So in the economic analysis we use the shadow prices, whereas the market prices are used in the financial analysis. So shadow prices, what is the shadow prices? We can define the shadow prices as those prices which would prevail in the economy if it is in the perfect equilibrium under the condition of the perfect market. So the prices which are prevail in the perfect market, in the perfect equilibrium condition, is the prices is called as the shadow prices. Conceptually, the shadow prices are based on the sacrificed benefit on second best alternate opportunities for the selected course of action to achieve the given objective. For example, when we talk about, we want to understand the shadow prices. If a project, a education project that require 10,000 tons of steel, and there are a number of alternative uses for steel in the other sector of the economy, like this steel can be used for the export purpose, can be used for manufacturing of consumer goods or produced goods. So this steel has the alternative usage. So it has no, we are purchasing for irrigation project, but it has the alternative uses. So the relevant cost of steel in the irrigation project can be identified as the maximum benefit that are lost in other use by using up this amount of steel. So if we export the 10,000 ton of steel, then we will get some benefit. So that benefit is basically opportunity cost of using the steel in the irrigation project. So we should use this benefit which we have foregone for in export activities as a shadow prices in the irrigation project. So similar conditions are used in other resources also. So, for identification of shadow prices, we need to be careful. We need to have the, careful in defining the alternative opportunity realistically, because, the alternative use or the alternative activity should be a real feasible activities. It should not merely a technical possibilities. The maximum benefit that has to be identified as a cost should be from the list of the real feasible alternative. It should be basically some feasible activity in the society, and the technical opportunity that cannot be made use of given social political are not basically real opportunity. And to identify the feasible opportunities as opposed to the technical opportunity, understanding of the political and social structure is very much required, and that is basically beyond the pure economics. That is not part of the the consideration or understanding of the political and social structure is not part of the the pure economics study. So shadow prices basically depend on the extent to which government will the instruments of policy like taxes, tariff, the public investment, regulatory management, regulatory mechanism, etc. And extent of use of this instrument is also constant by a variety of the social political consideration. Therefore, the considerable judgment is required to estimate the economic value of to estimate the shadow prices, and this judgment depends on a clear identification of the political and social constraints that limit the economic opportunity. Now we can sum up this session that the prices do not do a good job of reflecting the economic values, and in a perfect market, which are highly competitive market with many buyers and sellers, will wind up the every economic commodity price at the marginal value product. So basically the perfect market, we decide the prices. The prices are basically at its marginal value products, its contribution to the basically satisfaction, and that is the price of every goods and services which exactly reflect the value the last unit utilized of that item contribute to the production. So however, the perfect markets do not exist, and hence prices do not always reflect the correct value or true value of that commodity. And in that condition, we use the shadow prices for estimation in comparison to the market prices which are used in the financial analysis. With this, I thank you very much.